Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers for SF DocFest. Thanks for joining us here in this deliciously virtual world. We're celebrating 20 years of SF DocFest. So maybe a good place to start would be, how did you kind of discover the story and know that that there was kind of a film in the making there?
Um, you want to go ahead or?
I can do it this one. So when it really started was actually during the research of my previous film, which was called Desert Taste, which I finished in 2014. So actually quite a long time ago. But the three of us, because we're three directors, there's also Lisbeth who couldn't join this Q&A, but we're three directors. We were on this research trip in the desert for my previous film. And that's when we went to California City. So when we discovered, well, it wasn't discovered before us, but I mean, we personally found out about this place. And of course, just the story of it is quite intriguing. So we immediately wanted to know more about it. And we felt that there was a real film to be made there because it was just a little part of my previous film, but we felt like, okay, no, this city actually needs its own movie. And that's actually how we first started developing, like just dreaming out loud, like, hey, what is this place, and fantasizing about it. And then we just decided, why not do this with the three of us? And let's just go there without any preconcept, like an idea of what to do there. We first went there for 3 months on research before we actually started filming. So we first spent a lot of time there before really coming upon and deciding upon what the focus of our story would be. So there was a lot of spending time there.
Yeah,
In that.
because I mean, we immediately knew that even though we were very intrigued by California City as a place and as a story, that we didn't want just to make a portrait of the place and have the history of California City, and we wanted to do something more because otherwise it could also just be like an anecdote, and we wanted to do more than that. And this was also different with our previous work, is that our previous films derived more from a preconceived idea, like Sophie just mentioned. There was a concept already from the start, but with this one, we really started from the place. Yeah.
And what do you? I think many even Californians aren't necessarily aware of the California City story. What is it that, like, when you first stumbled upon it, that, like, what do you think is the kind of the enchanting aspect about it? Because I mean, there's just in the bones of the place and the story, it's just very intriguing. But yeah, what do you think it was that kind of drew you off? Because I mean, making a
Well, I guess, sorry, you're frozen, so I just continue. Well, I guess what drew us first to there was actually being in Belgium and looking at Google Maps, because that was the first encounter with California City. It was really from the air on Google Maps. And it's also the place where you really see the potential of the city, where the city comes like an amazing thing to you. Because if for people who want to try this, they can go to Google Maps and type in California City. You really see this grid of streets laying out in the desert. So that was the first just visual aspect. But then the second thing that really drew us to this place and that we found very intriguing, more on a content wise, was that when we went there, we noticed that a lot of people came to live in California City because they wanted to start over again, like to have a fresh start. So, like our head character in the film, Victoria Lachey, he came from Los Angeles to have a second, a second start and this chance to restart your life again. And actually, there were a lot of people who came to California City for that reason, and we found that very intriguing because it fits so much in the history of the American desert and West as a place to be reborn and start anew. So these are the two. It's first just like an impulse, like a fascination, and then it becomes, of course, something more and deeper to investigate.
And also because we saw this parallel, I guess, also with the city, what Sophie was just saying, this aspect of a fresh start, and of, like, as a person, how we're always evolving and you're never finished. It's just like the city is never finished. And I mean, I guess we once heard the expression of California City as a place always on the verge of becoming. And so this was interesting, this parallel between a city and people living there.
Oh, that's neat. So as filmmakers, how did you decide that you wanted to kind of define your visual aesthetic, and like how did you decide that you wanted to kind of visually capture the story? Because when you're in the middle of the desert, it's very static, and there isn't lots of movement and things. And so how did you decide that you wanted to kind of visually tell the story and kind of also interweave the elements?
I guess this was, I mean, like all the decisions that we made, this really developed very spontaneously throughout working on the film. But I guess the one of the most important features of the film is Lachey walking. It's so important in the concept of the film, and it means so much in the film how he, like how he finds his own path in this desert, and how he, by walking in it, how he like inscribes himself in the landscape, and how he takes ownership also of the place and finds his way. And I feel like, I don't know, like with our previous films, I think it's maybe much more like I don't know if it's the right way to put it, but more like a complicated or more expanded maybe way of thinking about the image. But I feel like with this film it was quite straightforward. This idea of okay, Lachey, he will be walking in the film and we want to walk with him, and Lachey will be our guide through this film, and we will see the city also through his gaze. And I think there's almost no just like establishing shots of the place itself. Either Lachey's in it, or either we're walking with him and we see the city through his eyes. With an exception, for instance, even no, Google Maps is even not an exception, because it's again through his eyes that we see the city. But so that's the main idea. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, Sophie. Or...
Yeah, literally, we also give he didn't give a camera to him. He already had one in his phone, but he made images for us as well. So that's literally his gaze that is included in the film. So his camera footage of his phone, things that he found remarkable in the city is there. So, but it's true what Isabel says. It's a very simple. We tried out a lot of things, so it's not that we just one day decide what shall we do. It's like a lot of trying out, but this decision of walking and following that the film follows this rhythm of walking was finally made it. Yeah.
You had alluded earlier this idea of this process of research and discovery, and every filmmaker I think has a different approach. Some filmmakers or filmmaking teams like hit the ground running, and you're filming right from the beginning. And then others kind of put the camera away and spend time there. So during those first 3 months that you kind of describe as research, did you do like kind of pre-interviews or cameras, or were you just basically just absorbing the place? So at what point in time did the filming start?
Yeah, we did bring, from the very first research period, we brought a few cameras to test. I mean, we even tried this old Hi8 camera, and we tried all different sort of stuff. Yeah, also because this was really the first time that the three of us worked together as directors. We had worked on each other's films before, but more as researcher, director assistant, or something like this. And we were really trying to find out from experience how we would handle this. I guess in the beginning, we even thought, at a certain point, we will take a DOP with us and a sound engineer, etc. And in the end, we ended up doing everything ourselves. But this was again through tryout that we found out what it would be. So in the beginning, we did some tests, not only with cameras, but also with different setups, like what does it do if each of us, like does camera sometimes and a sound sometimes. And then, so everything was a process in that. But for me, it's even hard to remember exactly like what we did in each period. But I do remember that we did. I mean, this is also, I think that bringing the camera from the beginning is not only because of trying out things and trying to figure out what we wanted, but also because of funding procedures, that there was a trailer required already, like in an early stage. And so we did need some images and stuff like this.
And also to let people know we're here for filming, because we spend a lot of time hanging out, talking, stuff like that. But once you bring a camera, they know, oh, it's for real. It's really a film, because after the third month, they really started to think like, will they really make a film? Because it sounds so abstract. So it helped them to get used to the camera and to the idea. Even it was just small sketches, and it never made a film, the footage that we shot. It just after like our fourth month there, that's when we really started deciding on which camera, who will film. Isabel was then decided to be the cinematographer, Elizabeth did the sound. So then things started to really move. And you could say that there's a division between research and filming in that way. But the presence of a camera does something to people, to gain their trust also, it's another way of building up a relation. But actually it was a lot of just spending time as well, and having a lot of conversations with a lot of different people. Yeah. So
now, did you live in California City during that time, or did you leave elsewhere and then come and visit? Or
no, we lived there because otherwise it's quite far from the next hotel or something. So we had a family there who were so kind to, for the whole 6 months that we spent there, to take us into their home. Their children had left, and they had 3 spare bedrooms, so we could stay there, which was really great. Without them, that it wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, I mean, both financially and I mean, there's one hotel in California City, it's a Best Western, but to spend 6 months in a hotel, that's quite expensive, and it's just not nice. Like, to stay with a family who had a Chihuahua and a pool was much nicer.
And since you were shooting in these kind of arid climes, was there any kind of any unexpected challenges during the making of the film, or surprises?
I missed the beginning of your question.
Was there any unexpected challenges or surprises in making a film out in the desert, or even just the stamina over 6 months out there?
I definitely feel that just the conditions of the desert, the heat mainly, were for us Belgians quite a challenge. I mean, we're definitely not used to that kind of weather, and also, I mean, like the physical challenges were definitely there, I'd say.
Very nice.
Lost once.
Oh, what did you say, Sophie?
We got lost once.
Oh.
But that was quickly resolved. But still, we had a little bit of experience of being lost in the desert. Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you again for making such a kind of interesting and beautiful film with Victoria, and thanks again for sharing it with us.
Thank you so much for having us.